Markets tried to make a push for a rally, but unwound at the end of the day. So let's take a look at what is going on. And the Dow finished up or down just about 0.34, Nasdaq or S&P flat, Nasdaq up 0.63. Markets, the Dow was up almost about 7.75%, S&P almost 1% earlier today, and the Nasdaq was up 1.5% before the unwinding into the close, as investors are still not quite certain about the economy and what's going on, coming off of the rally that we saw on Friday and the late Santa Claus rally trying to gain some momentum, but the markets obviously pushed back. So let's take a look at what's going on. Here's the Dow in a descending channel with a breakout that we've been watching and just kind of consolidating here in this area. And let's go back and look at what happened in 2008 with the same kind of price action where the Dow was working its way down, broke up above the trend, came underneath, found rejection, and ultimately rolled over when all the banks started collapsing. Congress could not pass the funding bill and was facing default, which halted the presidential election campaign for John McCain when he went back to Washington to supposedly put everything back together. That was an interesting time when the country was facing default and the politicians could not agree on raising the debt ceiling. Very interesting time, and the market did not like that at all back then. Here is the Nasdaq continuing its decline, a little bit different than 2008 timeframe. You can see the range here, stayed below the trend and then fell off the cliff when the banks and everybody started collapsing. 2001 was just a straight downhill drive after the initial blow off top. So you could draw a trend that way, but it really means nothing but just straight downhill. And I'm looking at the line chart here because it erases all the noise and it makes it just kind of easier to see the trend because all this is tracking as the closing, daily closes. So it kind of makes it look a little bit cleaner. Let's take a look at the S&P. Same thing, continuing to stay below trend. And again, what we're looking for is a move back up to the trend, ultimately a rejection, possibly, or it could be like this here, where it just kind of rolls over and goes down and sets a new low. So we won't know yet, but the one thing that could drive a rally to, above trend before it rolls over to set a new low, which I do fully expect markets to set a new low before this is all said and done, would be a soft inflation report. Let's take a look at Bitcoin here. I didn't really talk about Bitcoin much the other day because it really isn't doing much and hasn't done much. Working its way back up, 17.2, getting a little bit of a punch here. Could potentially work its way all the way back up to trend here again in this channel, which would be 17.9, 18,000 range, kind of up in the area of previous highs. We can go ahead and put the candles on it and take a look at what that looks like right here. And you can see that it's lost the momentum here at 17.3. People started selling, but again, I fully expected Bitcoin to come back up and retest this level here around 17 to 18,000, maybe even up as high as 18.5 before rolling over and retesting these lows and potentially breaking trend and setting a new lower low. Now, the real question now that's going to be driving price action, driving the markets. Let's take a look at Ethereum while we're talking, same kind of thing, kind of finding rejection at the end of that range. XRP not gaining much traction. Cardano had a nice little run here, reversing itself over. Solana, same thing. So pretty much the same exact price action across the markets. So again, this is market makers and exchanges kind of working this price action, liquidating people, sucking them in and liquidating them. Everybody thinking the market's going to reverse and put in, start going on a bull run, which, just isn't in the cards right now, and not potentially, not something that's likely right now, given the macroeconomic environment that we're in. And so what are the markets looking at now? If we get a good inflation print this week, inflation report on Thursday, I believe it's Thursday, it comes out this week, markets will rip and go in and set a new higher, lower high. And then let's go ahead and take a look at what I'm talking about here while we are narrating through that. So what I would expect on the Dow, and let's just take a look at, right now we have a lower high, right? So it could put in a higher, lower high, and then eventually roll over on itself and then break back and go test these lows and possibly put in a new low once reality sets back in. Same thing here. on the Nasdaq, pop up, set a new higher, lower high, and then ultimately roll over and set a new low. Same thing on the S&P, break the trend, higher, lower high, good inflation report. And then the Fed comes out and, talks the markets back down, says we still have a long way to go. Inflation is too high. The labor market's too strong. Markets need to chill out because they want tightening financial conditions, not loosening financial conditions. So then it rolls over on itself, goes down, sets a new low. Then the question starts to come in because the Fed is not done tightening. They're definitely going to raise, based on the inflation report, 50 to 25 basis points, 25 to 50 basis points. And based on that inflation report, we'll get a better understanding what the expectations are ahead of that. Right now, it seems like they're going to do 50 versus 25, just because the labor market is still strong, economic data is still strong. So we'll get that, then we get some earnings, and these things are going to greatly affect markets. So if we get a good inflation report, if we get decent earnings, markets could rip, and again, set a higher low, lower high in this range before ultimately rolling over and giving up the ghost and putting in a new lower low to then see where we are from a recession standpoint. So that's what I mean by a higher, lower high, and then a lower low ultimately after that. So that's definitely something that is in the cards that looks likely and probabilistic. So these are the things that I'm looking at. We'll see you on the next video.